Here we go. This is not the smartest guys in the room. I see Tom. I see Tom. I see Coach. What's going on? How you doing today, Tom?
Good, man. Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm fired up. Oh, here we go, man.
Yep.
We love the. I have to start this off. We always talk about selling with value, leading with dignity.
No, selling with dignity, leading with value.
Selling with dignity. Our friend Harry Spate wrote the book on selling with dignity, and you basically wrote the book on leading with value. So
And
here we go.
Coach Lucas, you can get out of here if you're going to spam our
Yeah,
comments
let's just block them.
scams.
Okay,
So
we'll just
goodbye.
block. Okay, ma'am, remove. Okay. Yeah, so here's what Tom's saying, and I'm saying, like, we try to give first, lead with value. Come on. So here, somebody we've never met before jumps in a room, tries to sell us something, we're going to have a conversation today. We're going to talk about, are you copying or are you inspired? And instead, somebody jumps in our room, jumps in the spam and starts trying to sell us some get rich nonsense. It's nonsense, right, Tom?
Yeah, and I think even worse, like I don't think he's not trying to sell us something. That's what's like worse is it's a scam, right? It's a ripoff. It's not even, it's like a phishing scheme. It's, hey, it's a too good to be true promise. It's, hey, if you like basically it's DM me, if you give me like $50, I'll help you make 4,000 or something like it was, I think that's what it was. It was something like that. It was like $50 investment, $4,000 return. And it's like, no, it's not. You're just going to lose $50. And then he's going to move on to the next person and convince them to give him $50 and move on to the next person. It's a scam. It's complete BS. Like, and I got no tolerance for it. I would rather deal with like a sleazy salesperson because at least they're trying to like sell you something. Like that guy is just flat out trying to rip you off.
Maybe the sleazy salesman might have something good at the end of the day. And like, oh, this guy was a jerk, but I got a nice car. It really fits me good. I wasn't planning to buy a suit today or a new tux, but man, I look sharp.
Right. Or maybe they upsell you on something you don't really need, right? Like you're looking at it, I mean, car salesmen get a really bad rap, right? But like, you're looking at a car and maybe the guy convinces you to spend a little extra money to get the ceramic coating on the paint, right? And it's like, do you really need it? Is it really going to make a big difference? I don't know. But like he convinces you to spend a little bit extra money to get it, right? And so maybe your car's a little bit shinier than it would have been otherwise, right? Is it worth it? Meh, debatable, right? But at least you got something for it. He's not like, give me $800 or whatever it costs, right? For the ceramic coating, give me $800, but like doesn't put ceramic coating on your car, right? Like that's what that guy's essentially doing. It's the equivalent of saying, give me $800, I'm going to give you X, and then he just dips and you never see him again, right? And you can't find him because he changes, he uses a screen name for like a couple of days or a week or whatever, and he just generates a new one, cancels that account and moves on. Right. But Coach Lucas or whatever his name was a scam, trying to run around, trying to rip people off, just jumping from room to room. I think he came back to our room by accident.
He probably realized, I already put that message in where I want $50 if somebody contacts me.
Yeah. Send me $50. I'll get you 4,000. Like, no, you won't. No, you won't. You're lying.
We should, Brian's here too. We should tip in 15, 17, 33 each and see and invest in him and see what happens next time this guy comes into the room.
No, absolutely. I mean, we could tell him that, but I would recommend against giving him $1. I would turn around and be like, hey, give me $50 and I will give you 10 million.
Yeah, why stop at 4,000? All right, let's move on here. We got sidebarred by somebody he's been here a couple times, just somebody that jumps in the room and tries to like pitch these weird whatever scams. So today we've had enough. We've seen it one too many times. We blocked him, we kicked him out, and now we are making an example out of him with our topic. So okay, the subject today on Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. If you did not, oh man, now I got to go over this again because Dr. Tachi and Julie would have appreciated it. So this is not, I have to do it. Okay, we're talking today on Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Are you copying or are you being inspired? But we got sidebarred for now 7 minutes because this guy that's come through the room a couple times jumped in 2 seconds into the room and pitched us for $50 he could make us 4,000, dipped out of the room like he usually does, jumped back in and dipped out again. So we're all wound up today. So the subject is, are you copying or are you inspired? So here's what I was thinking about on this one today. I hear Quentin Tarantino in an interview, and he says, I've copied from every movie ever made. And he can show you, they'll show you a scene at a table, and he's like, got this from this movie. Shows you somebody walking in, and he shows you the way the camera hits the traffic, and he says, got this from this movie. From like 1920s on, he'll go frame by frame. I was inspired by, but he says copy. So but now I would consider Quentin Tarantino a genius. He's super talented. His movies are completely original to me. And here's a guy saying he's copying. So where's this line? Because I read stuff that is copied every day. I'm reading, and I read stuff that's copied, and I'm like, this is not this person's voice. It is annoying to me. I see that this is what somebody else did. I don't even want to look at it anymore. Quentin Tarantino, I want more of it. I want to see what he did every time. So what's the answer here? Let's get started, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great topic. And I think, the first thing that pops into my mind is, I think you sort of have to define what, we're talking about, are you copying or are you being inspired by, right? We're kind of talking about sort of plagiarism versus innovation, right? At least in my mind. And so what immediately pops to my mind, or comes to the front of my mind, is this idea that there is really no such thing. Like, there's misconstrual of what innovation means. A lot of people, when you say innovation, they think you've created something brand new, that every single aspect of it has never existed before in the history of the world. And I don't think that's right at all. I think what innovation really is taking things that already exist and combining them, and some portion of them already exist. Maybe you've created one aspect of it that's new or novel, right? But combining things in a novel way, right? So taking a bunch of stuff that already exists and combining it in a novel way to create something that as a whole has never really existed before in that form, right? That's innovation to me. And so, when you talk about like Quentin Tarantino borrowing styles of shooting and angles and particular like pieces of scenes from other films and combining them to make his films, that's innovation to me, right? He's taking things that he's seen other people do and go, oh, you know what? It'd be really interesting if we took that shot, but we did it this way, right? It'd be really interesting if we did a car chase, but we did it this way, right? So he's coming at the problem, or coming at the situation from a different perspective, bringing his unique perspective to it, innovating and iterating on things that people have done in the past to create something new, right? That is innovation. And it's inspired by the work that other people have done in the past. And I think it's incredibly valuable to do. I think a lot of times, like I said, people get caught up in this idea that you have to create something brand new from nothing. And I'll use myself as an example. And I say this all the time, right? When I talk about my book, Legendeering, right? And that strategy that I've created, it is a unique combination of a whole bunch of existing strategies, right? Like literally going back to the 1700s, right? One of the sort of core strategies that's incorporated into Legendeering is content marketing. And you know who's credited widely as being sort of the creator of content marketing as we know it? Benjamin Franklin, right? When he published the Poor Richard's Almanac in Philadelphia in the mid 1700s. So like that's how far back Legendeering kind of goes, right? In the things that I've taken piece of and been inspired by to create this thing that I call Legendeering. I don't think that I'm ripping people off, right? I don't think that I'm copying anyone. The way that I've put it together has never really existed, right? And I've actually researched it. I've looked. I tried to make sure. I wanted to be sure that I wasn't just incidentally recreating somebody else's work and calling it my own. As far as I can tell, in all the research I've done over years of looking this stuff up, it's never sort of been combined exactly the way I've combined it, right? And called what I've called it. There's other people that have done things similar, right? There are other people that are continuing to and doing things similar, but not calling it legendary. And that's great. That's fine. But legendeering is mine in the same way that Pulp Fiction is Quentin Tarantino's, right? Or Reservoir Dogs is Quentin Tarantino's. Whether or not he borrowed from or was inspired by, films of the past and other sort of storytellers, visual storytellers and directors, cinematographers, etc., it's still his own because he's the only one that put it together in that way. And so that's what I think the sort of difference is, right? Copying is, literally like you go to the copy machine, you put something in and you get a duplicate out, right? Like that's copying. So if he had a scene in Pulp Fiction that was shot for shot from another film with the same dialogue, et cetera, then he's copying people, right? But if he's using a shot with his dialogue, with his actors, with his context in a different way, he's being inspired by, he's not copying. So I don't think he's ripping anybody off any more than I think I've ripped anybody off, or you've ripped or anybody that does creative work is ripping anybody off. There's this idea that there's no such thing as an original thought, right? Or like all of the good ideas have already been thought of. I don't know that I believe that, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking existing things, combining them in a novel way to create something new. I think that's innovation. And that is what you get when you're inspired by someone else's work.
That's a spectacular answer, Tom. Thanks for getting us started. You have me thinking on just full admission on the last book and screenplay that I worked on. My Name is Sharon was the last one I wrote. It was about my mom's battle with Alzheimer's. Now, the Notebook was a love story where it touches on Alzheimer's. I thought, well, what if there was a love story and the love story was between mother and son? And rather than it was a different kind of love. And so that was the thought, inspired in a sense, love story where Alzheimer's is an underlying theme. Okay, so that now, granted, it's me, my mom's story, it's 2020, it's a pandemic. Then I was also inspired at the time. This Is Us was a popular show at the time. And the way they told the story and were able to jump back in time, but continue to progress forward. I thought that was an interesting way to move a story forward, where they could take you back to when they were young and still move forward. So I tried to combine, in my mind, not that I did it successfully or not, but in my mind, adding my story and using these kind of formulaic approach to what I was doing. I think that was, if I had to break it down, that's how I chose to do it. All right, let's keep this going. So, Mr. Swift, when you put out a piece of content, whether it's a video you're making, a book you're writing, a speech you're giving, how do you know? How do you make sure it's original to Brian Swift and you're not giving Alex Hormozi's speech or somebody else's speech?
If I'm quoting somebody directly and using their exact words, I think you have to quote that and give it credit. But a lot of times what I try to do is, if I see something I like, try to put it into my words or add my personality onto it. To Tom's point, I believe there are things that have not been thought of and said a certain way, but there's only so many ways to say certain things. So I try to put my spin on it. Unless you're just exactly quoting somebody, I try to put my personality or spin onto it. I like adding that spin onto certain things, but sometimes there's things out there that's like the perfect way to say it, right? Not that it hasn't been said before, but some of it's timing, and there are ways to say things that might have your spin on them. And then there's those times when that's said perfectly, and that's the way it's going to be said. So try to add your personality, your spin onto things if you want to try to be as original as you can. I'm complete.
Thank you, Mr. Swift. Nice seeing you here as always. And I believe wholeheartedly you have to add your own voice, your own personality on it, your own spin. So well said, Brian. Dr. Tachi, how are you showing up and making sure you are original in the content you put out and not a carbon copy of somebody else?
I think it's inevitable that you're going to get inspired by things. If you're human and you live in the world, you're going to see things that resonate with you and thus be inspired. At some point, whether you intend for it to or not, it's going to be reflected in your work. In fact, when I was at New York Film Academy, I had an instructor that said there are not really any new ideas. There's just the spin that you bring to these ideas that already exist out there, which I think in a sense is true. However, as you've said, there is a difference between being inspired by and then lifting whole pieces of things and including them in your work. I I've always been a creative and always been a creative person. So, in my opinion, I've never had a problem formulating ideas. Or even if I get inspired by something, I'm like, ooh, I would like to include this in the work. And then here's the thing, we often get inspired by our own experiences. There are things that I've done, pieces that I've written, scripts that I've written that are based off of experiences that I've had. Does that mean that nobody else has had these experiences? No, but they haven't happened to them in the same way it happened to me. And it happened to me. So I'm coming at it with my own thought process and my own way of putting it down, right, on paper or in a computer, whatever the case may be. So I think I just show up the way I am. And what I create is based off of my experiences, things that I encounter, which are still part of our experiences, right? So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's how I ensure. I just show up as me. I'm not trying to be someone else. That's another thing. I am not intending to put my work out there in the world with the intent of trying to be the next XYZ. Because when you do that, sometimes there is that tendency to copy style and the way people do things. A good example, really quickly, there's someone I know that is been on social media, and she keeps getting compared to Wendy Williams, right? Well, yeah, I can hear it in the voice, I can see it in the style, but there's also something different. But if she tends to lean into that whole thing in terms of not only the style kind of and the look and the topics that she chooses to do, then she becomes like Wendy Jr. and not who she is. So that's an example of that. And I'm done.
I mean, I think that's great. Dr. Tachi, one of the things that pops to my mind, just listening to what you said there at the end, is it's great to be sort of inspired by. It's actually nice when somebody says, "Oh, you remind me of so and so, a figure, somebody they like, somebody they listen to, somebody they admire." That's a great thing to hear. I think to your point, the important thing to do then is to not lose yourself in that comparison, right? To not steer too hard into that comparison, and end up in a situation where all you're doing then is emulating that person, right? Like, oh, this person like Wendy Williams, they said I remind them of Wendy Williams, and now I'm just going to try to be as Wendy Williams as I can be. Like, that's probably not the best idea. Probably the best idea is to continue being you and know that there is something sort of familiar, reminiscent of Wendy Williams, that people like about you, that people might listen to you or watch you for the same reasons that they listened to or watched her. So yeah, I think it's a good point there that comparison, those kinds of comparisons can be great if you're likened to somebody, especially if you personally admire that individual. But yeah, be wary of steering too hard into that comparison and ending up just trying to be a carbon copy of them, because you'll end up losing yourself in the process, and then ultimately people will sort of tune out or turn off or turn away if you do that, because what they were really there to take in to begin with was the unique spin that you brought to the table, the unique sort of flavor, so to speak, that you brought to the conversation. So I think that's a great point. What do you think, Dom?
I'm enjoying the conversation. It reminds me, I finished the Creative Act recently by Rick Rubin. Super creative dude. The book was completely different than I ever thought it was going to be. Almost poetic. But one of the things that he mentions is all the ideas like are out there. The words, the lines, the song. A song could become a movie. A line could become a word. A phrase could become a song. So many ways that once the inspiration's out there, how you use it, you could use it a million different ways. I have this one one line. I'm not even giving it because I don't want you guys stealing it from me. But I keep this one line in my head, and I've wrote whole screenplays around one line because I think at the end of the day, it's about this thing. And so it's one line that inspires me to, and so I could take a line that Brian says and maybe take that line and write a whole book on it, in a different way with my own spin. So, are you copying or are you inspired by? We got Julie here, Kevin, Jimmy's here, Dave's in the house from Canada. So we got a lot of people here today, people watching. Where's everybody watching before we get to Julie and Dave? Tom, you're best at that. How do we stream this show?
Well, anybody and everybody who wants to watch, which I hope is many folks over the time that this lives on the internet, which is, once it's on the internet, it's forever, right? So the internet is forever, as people often say. But yeah, we're streaming all over the internet. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on Facebook. We're streaming on LinkedIn. We're streaming on Twitch. And of course, we're here hosting on Clubhouse. That's where the room is. That's how we get people up on stage with us to engage in the conversation and be a part of this show. But yeah, we're hosting on Clubhouse. That's the platform we use, and then we're broadcasting all over the internet. So, and like I said, once it's on the internet is forever. So if you miss it live, you can always catch it on a rerun.
Okay, well done, Tom. The internet is forever. That's what we learned today. Okay, we are going to Julie. Julie sent me a text that says she's muted, so we're going to ask her this question. How do you make sure you're inspired by and not copying? Julie, we'll see if we can unmute you. You able to unmute Julie, Tom? You can do that sometimes if she can't do it.
I don't have the option to unmute her. I can mute her if she were unmuted, but I cannot unmute her.
Okay, Julie, give it a try. Oh, she can't even read what's in the chat. Okay, something must be going on with her stuff. Leave the room and come back, Julie. We need you. Okay, Kevin, what say you on the subject? Kevin was here. Hopefully he's not having trouble.
That was so weird.
And polite to Kevin. That's all right.
Kevin, I don't want to interrupt you. That was so strange. It said I couldn't speak or even write in the chat. So sorry about that. Never seen that before. So I would say that there is no such thing as an original idea. And the way to inspire, in my mind, is to connect different elements to become a creative, meaning, so we can get inspired by Gary Vaynerchuk or Quentin Tarantino. However, what Tom kind of explained, Quentin Tarantino, he is connecting different ideas and thoughts to create something new. And that's where I see the power in and understanding different patterns, number one, and also understanding, having a real deep knowledge of things that are missing and being able to fill that gap by creating this process of connection. I don't know if that made sense, but that's just what came to mind. Thanks for letting me speak.
Julie, that was deep. Well done. We appreciate you. All right, let's keep it rolling. Okay, Kevin, what do you got for us, man? You're here, you're gone now. What do you got? We need you. Kevin, good stuff, man. You came out on fire. Go on, Tom. What do you got?
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, what came to mind when you're talking about Oprah there and the sort of the progression of the sort of the talk show in the 80s and early 90s, right? The late 80s, early 90s was when that genre really kind of exploded. And when Oprah really rose to preeminence within that genre. And a lot of people, accused her of copying or being a ripoff of Phil Donahue and some of the other early talk show hosts. It made me think of, I've seen this interview of Ed Sheeran with Howard Stern, right? And they're talking about the copyright case, the very, very public, famous copyright case where Ed Sheeran was sued or by the family of Marvin Gaye, or the family of the late show or the song's co-writer, Ed Townsend. His family sued him for copyright infringement from the song Let's Get It On, right? And he ended up winning that case. Might have also, but it definitely Ed Sheeran got sued by them. And the interview that specifically that I'm referencing, it was when he was on Howard Stern's show, and he talked about kind of what they how they demonstrated live in court. Ed Sheeran actually played guitar and sang on the witness stand to demonstrate that 4-chord progression that they were claiming he as copyrighted work from Let's Get It On, that 4-chord progression is used all across different songs and genres of music. And he literally played a melody of different songs using that same 4-chord progression to demonstrate that it's used all over the place and that it's just part of the building blocks of music, right? And that you can't copyright the building blocks of music, right? Like if that'd be like claiming that if a famous architect built a house out of wood and then someone else built a house out of wood, that'd be like claiming you stole the architect's design because you built a house out of wood also. It's like, well, every house, like most houses, are built out of wood, at least in the sort of northeast part of the US where I live, right? Most houses are built out of wood. Like that's how we build houses around here, right? So you can't claim that you're copying someone else just because you use the same sort of materials. And I think, anyway, that just popped into my head. It's a really interesting interview. I recommend if anybody has the time looking it up. That interview between that Howard Stern did with Ed Sheeran. Howard Stern is obviously, I would consider him to be, and a lot of other people consider him to be, a fantastic interviewer. But he kind of got into that conversation, and Ed Sheeran actually demonstrated what he did on the stand. It was really interesting to listen to. Dr. Tachi, I saw you flash. Did you have something you wanted to add to that?
I was flashing to clap. I was going to check that out, but I did think of something. So another example I thought of, I listened to, and I may have said this before, years ago, I was listening to I think it may have been NPR, an interview that was being done with Dee Snider. And Dee Snider is the lead singer from Twisted Sister. And Dee Snider went to Catholic school his entire life. So he said in the song, "We're Not Going to Take It," it was inspired by "Oh Come All You Faithful." And so I sat there and I said, oh my gosh, "We're Not Going to Take It" is "Oh Come All You Faithful." So you never know what experiences you have that are going to color the work and such that you produce. So I just wanted to say that.
Love it. Thanks.
That's good. That's good stuff. I wanted to mention in the book Save the Cat, they talk about give me the same thing but different in writing. It's basically considered like a Bible to writing and screenplays and stuff. But you could take any movie, like if I said to you Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, I could say Tommy Boy was a buddy comedy about cells. Then I could say, well, let's do another buddy comedy. Let's make it Beverly Hills Cop. Let's make it Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart going to jail. Let's make it The Rock and Kevin Hart as policemen. Let's make it a woman and a man. How about we make the buddies blind and deaf, and it's see no evil, hear no evil. You can make the buddies. I have two buddies, a million different ways. I could make it Shaun of the Dead. Two buddies, now add zombies to it. It's the same concept. You're just in one, they made them blind and deaf, and the other, they made them zombies. It's the two interaction. So I go out and bike and hike with my friend Dave. We go out on the trails and bike and hike, and we goof around, we screw around, we argue. It's the same thing that's been done 100 different times, but just a different way, a new spin on. It's buddies. It's two buddies hanging out, having a good time, So, okay, Tom, it is that time of the show. Everybody get ready. It is that time for Tom's Thumbs. Are you ready for Tom's Thumbs? This is where we talk about pop culture, and Tom has to give us a thumbs up or thumbs down about something going on. So today, Tom, I'm proud of this one. What do you think about Bill Belichick and his new girlfriend?
I'd have to give it a thumbs down. It is a weird situation, right? Like really weird. I forget who it was. I mean, and anybody who listens or anybody who's here often knows that I like sports. I enjoy sports, but I'm not a sports fan. I don't follow sports in the way a lot of people do, right? And especially not the New England Patriots, because I'm a New Yorker and born and raised a Giants fan, right? So, which has been tough for the last 10 years or so. But yeah, I obviously not a fan of Bill Belichick, generally speaking, because of his coaching at the Patriots, and also because of some seemingly credible accusations of cheating over the years. as the head coach of the Patriots. And I think they actually got in trouble one time for filming somebody else's practice or something like that. Anyway, that's all kind of besides the point. I will kind of try to get myself back on track here, talking about his relationship with his 20 something. I forget how old she is, but like I don't even think, I think like mid 20s at the oldest. Like I feel like she's like 24 or something like that. And he's in like his 70s. Oh, 34. I thought she was in her 20s.
No, sorry, that was a typo. She is 24.
Okay. Yeah. So 24-year-old. So this guy in his like mid to late 70s.
Okay. Are you guys saying he's not a hunk? Go on, Tom.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Now that I got the information, let me trudge forward with this. I swear I'll get to a thumbs up or a thumbs down. All right. So Bill Belichick and his girlfriend situation is just weird to me. I mean, first of all, the age gap doesn't make any sense to me, right? She's 24, he's 72. That's too big an age gap, I think, right? I mean, we're talking 48 years difference in age. That is too much, I think, right? Too much to be reasonable. It's weird. But then what's extra weird about it, what's super weird about it is the seeming level of control that she has over what he says, when he says it, and who he says it to. Like the way in which she has him wrapped up and kind of controlled is really bizarre to me. Like I saw an excerpt from an interview. I didn't see the whole interview, but there's an excerpt from an interview, and the interviewer asks Belichick about how he and his girlfriend met, and off camera, the girlfriend who is in the room says, "We're not going to talk about that." And Bill Belichick, this very accomplished guy who's 72 years old, just looks at the interviewer and kind of goes, "Well, I guess we're not talking about it," right? As if that's a completely normal and reasonable thing to have happen. It is weird. It is bizarre. It is strange. It doesn't make any sense. There's something extra going on there that we are not privy to. And I just think it's honestly, I also think the age gap is a little bit gross. Personally, other people could argue that age is just a number or whatever, but like the gap in maturity between a 24-year-old and a 72-year-old is just, it's weird. It's kind of a little bit gross. I'm looking at it, as a father with a daughter. Like, would I be happy if my daughter, when she's 24, started dating a 72-year-old? Probably not so much. So yeah, it's weird. It's a little bit creepy. It's a little bit gross. And the level of control that she exercises over him and what he's allowed to say and when he's allowed to say it and who he's allowed to say it to is just really strange. And so for all of those, I think there's something weird going on there. There's something unhealthy, it feels like, going on there to me. And so for all of those reasons, I give that celebrity pairing or relationship a thumbs down. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. Weird relationships get a thumbs down from me. Because it's weird in an unhealthy way, I think. I don't think it's weird in like a fun, quirky way, right? It's weird in like kind of a creepy, gross, unhealthy way. So yeah, thumbs down.
Right, a hard stance. We don't even know that girl's name. So a thumbs down on Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. Fabian says he has a theory. If he wants to come up and tell us a theory, go on, Fabian, go on. We're talking about, okay, he says he's coming up. Okay, invite as a speaker. All right, we're talking about, are you copying? Are you inspired by? We get sidebarred, but Tom's thumbs isn't sidebarred. Tom's thumbs is vital. So Fabian, give us a quick take here on your thoughts on your theory. Go on.
Okay, great to be in this room. You ever see where somebody's telling somebody if you're being held hostage to blink 5 times or something like that? This, to me, seems like a hostage situation. This seems like this young lady has the goods on him, whether it's photographs or something. But for this control freak of a coach and considered the greatest NFL coach ever to be acting this way is so out of character, it's not even funny. So that is my theory, unfounded as it is, but I think that she has some goods on him. And that's it.
Okay, that was a good take, strong take here, man. Okay, come on, we're gonna keep it going. Kevin, you got your hand raised or high five, so quick take, make it quick. Yeah, you put two and two together there, I think. Okay, are you copying or inspired by? Dr. Tachi's got the big eyes. Dr. Tachi, you think it's something different? What do you think? Go on, you commented down below. You got an answer?
No, I don't have a thought. Actually, I don't give a damn.
There we go. Okay, we're moving on then. We are done. Bill Belichick is done. Okay, Tom sums up. Are you copying or are you inspired by? You're putting out content. Does it, like I sometimes, like I said, it was charming when I watch a Quentin Tarantino movie and I hear him say, I reference this, I use that. I'm like, amazing. And then some people I watch on social media, like Dr. Tachi mentioned, that if somebody's trying to do Wendy Williams, like trying to emulate them, like sometimes you'll see, oh, they're just doing them, and you're like, oh, it is them. It's that I had a friend one time that all of a sudden started putting out, he had put out no content whatsoever. And then he started making these highly developed videos with like a whole crew of people following him around while he talked business. And the guy was super successful and had means to have people follow him around. And he'd be like in China eating with chopsticks and he just talked some business. And it was so clear he was trying to do, like, it's him getting off the plane and there's a like they put up a drone of him walking off on the tarmac and stuff. And it was a Gary Vee video and the guy only did 3 of them. But the point of his video was for him to be Gary Vee. I'm like, I don't get it, man. Like, where are you going here? To me, Tom, it was a complete copy, not something original. So I did not resonate with that. So your thoughts, and then let's get to Jason and Fabian on this.
Yeah, and I think what you're hitting on there, Tom, is that it lacked authenticity, right? Like you're talking about somebody right? And so it's a little bit different with that perspective when compared to someone who you only know kind of through the internet or through the content that they put out. But I think that what you're hitting on and what you picked up on is that it didn't feel like him. It didn't feel authentic to him. It felt like he was trying to be Gary Vee, right? Gary Vee works because Gary Vee is kind of a maniac and he's all over the map and he's manic and hyper and talks really fast and is really energetic. And that's just who he is, or at least the persona that he has consistently adopted for the entire time that he's been in front of a camera. So it works because that's what you expect, right? But when you get somebody who just shows up and tries to be like that, but isn't like that in other places or as consistently, it rings hollow. And that inauthenticity, really is easily identifiable by the audience, and it leaves them kind of going, meh, he's sort of like a weak Gary Vee, so I'm over it, right? Not interested, right? It's sort of like going to karaoke. Like, you go to karaoke and you hear somebody sing a song really well. You might be impressed in the moment, be like, wow, they really nailed that song. But you're not going to go watch them in concert like you would the real artist, right? The person who wrote and sang that song to begin with, right? It's not a good substitute. One's an imitation, right? And one's the real thing. And you always want the real thing. Everybody always wants the real thing. They don't want the imitation. So that's what I think happened there. But anyway, I think let's move on.
I
who's
can
up next,
unmute.
Jason?
All right. I thought I was
we got Jason. So Jason, we're talking about copying or inspired by. So when you see something that's a copy or you read something that's a copy, does it turn you off, or you're like, oh, I get this, I see what they're doing here, or is there a line? This is pretty good, or I'm out.
It really depends. I mean, say like there's music that you guys were just talking about. Let's say you go see a cover band and the artist is no longer around. Say like Pink Floyd. Let's just take them for an example. And some people love the sound of Pink Floyd, but the band no longer gets together. You can go have an enjoyable experience in a live setting, right? And maybe people are attached to having the original, but then you got like, for example, Journey right now with Leon Pineda, who sounds a lot like Steve Perry. And people say, oh man, he's not like He's not like Steve. They're just trying to keep old guys together, and that's most of the original band. And I'm like, oh, well, who's in charge of the experience? Yourself. I don't care whether you copy somebody or not, because how many people have written self-help books, sad stories, the hero's journey, and written over and over, and it's like you could predict the end pretty much. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't have meaning or it doesn't have significance to you. It just means that where you're at in that place and time, can you appreciate the experience?
Okay,
There's
now
plenty
being
of
the
guys
sixth
out there that
person to
have the
talk
hard
about
knocks
this,
life
yes, it sounds like
story,
there's nothing
right?
left to say
But
on
they
this
made
because it's
something
been
of
said many,
themselves.
many ways, but I'm going to try and say it
We
yet
should not
again.
just be so quick to
Basically, giving
judge.
the example of what we're
But
talking
some
about.
things you just
When
can't
I
beat the
think
original.
of
It's like, what do you want out
my
of it? That's
inspirations
what I think.
growing
What
up
do you
as a
want out of the
kid,
experience?
way
So
back in the
whether,
day, there
like
was someone
my
on
story, what I'm
television
working
named
on
Phil
right now,
Donahue.
many guys have done the same
And
shit
he
that I
did
have.
something
I'm not
I
worried
think
about
that no one
copying
else had
anyone
done
else.
before, like
But
going into the
if you
audience
take
with a
elements that
microphone
have
and having
worked
a
for
topic and
somebody
having
else,
someone
and
on
then you add it
stage
into your
and
own
putting
chemistry and your own
microphones
concoction, then
in
you're
the
good.
faces of people in the
So
audience
what
and
mean for
having them
you?
talk directly to the
Like,
people that were on
and
stage on the
I'll end
topic
with this.
or
Rick
ask
Rubin
questions of celebrities
said it
directly.
best in
And
his
no one
book
had
called
done
The
that
Creative
before.
Act.
And then someone
He
called
said that
Oprah
it
came
doesn't
along,
matter what other
and
people
people thought
think.
that she was
I
copying
just
him
go
because she
after
was
what I
doing the
like.
same thing he was doing.
And whether
She
it's
was in the
copying some
audience. She had a
parts and being
microphone and she
original
was
in other
pointing it into the
parts,
faces of the people
choice
in the
is
audience
yours.
and letting them
You're
speak
going to follow
directly
the
to the
sheep,
people on the stage.
or you're going
But
to be the sheep
she
herder.
took that
You choose.
genre so far. And now when people hear the
Thanks,
name
Jason. I
Oprah
appreciate
Winfrey,
that.
they don't
I
even
like that.
think
That's
of
a
Phil
great
Donahue.
quote.
They don't even know there was a
Great
Phil
quote there
Donahue
to kind of leave
because
things.
she took it in
So,
such a
Lauren, we're
different
coming around to
direction.
you.
She took it so much
The
further.
question we're
She
talking
took
about,
the
right,
ball and
is
she just kept
how
on
do you draw the
running with
line
the ball or
between
baton.
copying
She
and being
ran further,
inspired by
faster
something,
than
and is
anybody
it
thought was
okay
possible
to
with that
borrow from
genre.
other people's
And
work
speaking of genre,
and
it's the
to
same
use it
thing
as
as music.
inspiration to
There are
create your own?
many
What do you
different
think?
country artists. There's many different hip hop
100%.
artists.
Hi,
Because you're in the same
everyone.
genre
Hello.
doesn't mean you're doing the exact same thing.
So I
I'm
love
going to
it. And I was
basically,
trying to go
strum on
in
a
the
guitar. You're
background,
going to strum on a
and
guitar,
I
but
mean,
you're
I
going
can
to
call
say
my
different things.
7-year-old to try and help
I'm going to
me.
say different things. And like
But
Tachi
the guy
said,
that came
we've all lived our own lives and we may have
of
epiphanies,
Idols,
but the
who now
idea
goes
that
on
walking
stage,
on this
I'm
planet,
not going to say his
living
name right,
our
but he
lives,
does the
loving,
somersault,
dealing with loss,
and he does that
basically the
song
human
for his mom.
experience, we're probably going to
Bjorn
have the same
Born,
epiphany that somebody had 300
something like
years
that.
ago
Someone
about
help
what
me.
life means and what's really important. And so the
I don't know.
difference is
Go on,
how
Lauren.
we
You got it.
communicate that
No,
epiphany.
but I'm asking
And the
you
fact is, we're all
the
different
talent.
people.
The
And
guy that
my
came out
description of
of
my epiphany about
Idols
loss
and
and how we
then
should deal with it
literally now does the
may
somersaults
be the
at
same
all of
epiphany
these
that Dr.
events and
Tachi
sings
had.
his
Are you
songs.
But the
talking
way
about
I
Benson
describe
Boone?
that epiphany
That's it.
and how to
Benson
use that
Boone.
epiphany in life
So now you look
may
at Benson
reach
Boone,
one
who is
person.
now
They may be able to
doing
hear that. Much like how dogs can hear things that we can't hear,
Freddie
I may
Mercury.
be able to hear something or
So he's
communicate
not
something in a
trying to
way
copy.
that one
He's
person may
giving
hear that same
a
epiphany that Dr.
version of
Tachi
it.
had, and vice versa. Somebody may hear my description of that
So
epiphany
I
and like
think
it
in
doesn't
the
resonate with
context of
them.
this
But
conversation of
the frequency
copying
that
or
she
not,
delivers that epiphany
it's about, are
will
you
ring
giving
in someone
kudos
else's
back?
ear and
Are
touch
you
their heart and move
changing
them
a
and
new
change the direction they
version? So
move
like
in
my son is 7.
completely differently than
He
what
has
I'm able to
no
put
clue who
forward.
Freddie Mercury
And when it comes
is.
to the idea
But
of people
Benson
just kind of
Boone is
copying,
making it
because I
cool
do
for
feel like there are
him.
people that are just cut and pasting.
So,
If
you
you
know, we
listen to
have
any
to
kind
look
of
and go,
influencer
time
content, is it just me
has
or
a
is
space,
everybody obsessed
but
with
also
everything?
time
I'm
changes
obsessed with this matcha recipe.
generations.
I'm obsessed with this
Now
new
my
couch cushion.
kid
I'm
is seeing
obsessed with
Benson
this
Boone
new
doing
movie.
these
I'm
things
obsessed
of
with this
Freddie
new show.
Mercury,
Everybody's obsessed. I don't know who was the first
where
person to be
he wouldn't have
obsessed with
known
stuff
Freddie
in social
Mercury.
media, but
And it's
you
still
have made
freaking
a
cool.
profound uh
So that's not
a
someone copying
profound
someone
inspiration to
else,
many people
but
because
it is
everybody
always
is
going to
now
be in
obsessed with
context.
everything. So thank you for putting that in. I
And
thank you or
you do
curse
it
you
right
for putting
or
that
you
into the
don't do
world.
it right. You keep the legacy or you don't keep the legacy. But right now, my kid wants to know more about Freddie Mercury because of that. And to me, that keeps the legacy alive. I hope what I'm saying like hits home to some things, because I'm a big muso and I love music. And now my son gets to experience music because of this. And so that's what I wanted to bring to the front.
Cool. Well, thanks, Lauren. Appreciate that. Sounds like you got somebody at the door or something. The dog was going nuts there towards the end, but yeah, no, thanks for that. Appreciate it. And I think, yeah, I mean, Benson Boone is doing a good job of singing a bunch of Queen songs and singing Freddie Mercury's part. He's an interesting kind of character for sure, and he's also like I think he embodies a little bit, like with the backflips and with the sort of sequined outfits that he wears in his concerts. He does a little bit sort of embody some of the kind of spirit and the showmanship of Freddie Mercury to some extent. So appreciate that. So we got two quick things to do here before we wrap up. One is Dom's show
Was
and
that
tell. So
Robin
let's start
Thicke?
with that. Dom, what do you got to
I thought
show
Robin
us and
Thicke
tell
got
us about
sued
this
by
week?
the.
Okay,
about
I will
that.
be quick today, and I want to show you everybody in this room. You can be great at more than one thing. You can be great at different things in different times of your life. So today I am going to show you my Deion Sanders cards. Here is Deion Sanders, a rookie card where he is playing football. Deion, if you don't know, they call him prime time. Deion Sanders, an upper deck card where he is playing baseball. Deion Sanders played two different sports professionally. He didn't just focus on one. He was actually great at both. He made the major leagues in both. And you can say what great is. Well, he made the major leagues and had big time stats in both of those. So he was great. Now, also Deion is a coach later in life that wins a lot of games. His teams have won over and over again. And he was pretty good in the media too. So you don't have to focus on one thing. You can focus on multiple things. You can be great at many things in your life. So don't give up. It's never too late to start something new. Here are two of my Deion Sanders cards. That's what you got, Tom.
Yeah, well, and I think, it's one of those things too. I think there's the what you ended up with Deion Sanders there, right, is somebody who had extraordinary athletic ability in places where that extraordinary athletic ability translated across from between different sports, right? And you see that a lot with like really high achieving athletes tend to be good at other sports or better than the average people, and sometimes good enough to be professionals in multiple sports, multiple disciplines, because of that extraordinary athletic ability. And I think that same thing can be true in different disciplines, right? So, could be true in a creative discipline like writing. Somebody could be an incredibly accomplished or talented author, and they may also turn out to be really good at writing comedy or writing dialogue for a drama or a series, right? And that writing, that skill set translates because maybe their real skill set is in creating interesting dialogue or writing interesting dialogue, right? So maybe their books are really heavy on dialogue, and so they're also subsequently really good at writing films or television series or something like that. So yeah, so it's like I think that's a good example of understanding that while you may be skilled in one particular area, there's a good likelihood or a decent likelihood that some of those underlying skill sets translate across mediums, right, or across disciplines, and that you can take some of those skills and apply them to other things that you do, and also achieve highly or be really good at those things. I think for Deion Sanders, right, it was his speed and his coordination, in both of his disciplines, in baseball and in football, that really made him a great player. That, and then ultimately, I think one of the things that separates most high achieving athletes from recreational athletes or people that don't make it to the pros is just their ability and their willingness to push themselves harder than other people are willing to. It's a weird thing to brag about, but they're just willing to suffer more, right? Is kind of the easiest way to put it. At least that's the way it is in endurance sports and the sports that I'm spending a lot of time involved with or participating in or paying attention to. Is the besides the athletic ability, right, and the work that they put in, I think the other thing that separates the pros really is their ability to just suffer more, to just say, well, it's gonna be rough now, but I'm willing to do it so that I can achieve highly later. Yeah, it's a unique skill set or an interesting skill set, but I think at the end of the day, across media, if you're across discipline, if you're just willing to put in the work, you're going to do pretty well. And obviously Dion was willing to put in the work. Batting practice, football practice, right? It makes improvement. So
practice makes perfect. That's right. Not the smartest guys in the room. Before we go today, Tom, you can just do your wrap up all about Bill Belichick or Dion or copying or inspired by. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I don't know. I think to close the loop on Bill Belichick and his relationship with his 24-year-old girlfriend, I'll just say this. I think there's probably a little bit of everything going on in there that people were postulating. I don't know that I would offer a concrete theory myself, but yeah, to Kevin's point, for sure, he wants to. He's a 72-year-old guy, and at the end of the day, he's a straight man, and he probably wants to go home with his 24-year-old girlfriend, who's a very attractive woman. So I think he's got a point. I also think that there might be something weird going on where she's got I don't think she's got like dirt on him per se, but she's exercising a level of control that is odd or strange to me. The way that he just doesn't push back at all, that he is seemingly fine with her correcting him in public on camera to other people seems a little bit odd to me, and a little bit more going on there in terms of like their interpersonal relationship other than just he wants to go home with a 24-year-old at the end of the day. So I don't know what else is going on there, but I'll just say this. It's weird. I don't like it, and it still gets a thumbs down. So I'll leave Bill Belichick there. And then as far as copying versus inspiration goes, I think, look, if you're going to quote somebody or if you're going to copy somebody, to Brian Swift's point from earlier, yeah, like there's nothing wrong with quoting people or citing other people's work or using other pieces of other people's work, so long as you give attribution, right? So like if you're gonna quote somebody or you're gonna use an excerpt from somebody's book or whatever the case is, right, in your own work, give attribution, right? Make sure that you cite your sources. Make sure that people know that you are not trying to take credit for that you are giving credit where credit is due. You are citing other people's work. There's nothing wrong with that. Totally okay. Do it, right? And then on the other side of things, from the sort of Quentin Tarantino perspective and my kind of take on innovation, I would just say this, like, look around you. Every day I see things that inspire me to think about things a certain way, to create things a certain way that I can incorporate into the work that I do. And one of the things that I do all the time, this is just a little tip that I'll throw out for anybody listening. One of the things I do all the time is I use AI as an iterative engine, right? So all the time I will go into an AI, pick whatever large language model you like to use. It doesn't really matter. I will go into an AI platform and I will say, give me 10 titles for this social media post, right? Or for this article that I've written. And I will ask it to give me a bunch of titles. And I won't grab one of those titles verbatim, right? But I will read through those titles, and inevitably there will be a combination of words or a word that I hadn't thought of using that will trigger some inspiration for me. And I'll go, oh, you know what? I like that word. I like that word. I like that word. What if I put these words together and add this other word that ChatGPT didn't think of, and boom, now I've got my title, right? So I will use it as an iterative engine to spur inspiration, to kind of accelerate inspiration so that I can get things done a little bit more quickly and a little bit more efficiently than if I was sitting there trying to doodle on a piece of paper and come up with word combinations on my own. So there's just a quick little tip for folks. If you want to use AI in your day-to-day for inspiration, use it as an iterative engine, ask it to give you options for different ways to say things or different ways to title things, etc. And it's a great way to use AI to sort of further and expedite the day-to-day work that you do, and to continue being creative and to use it to find inspiration. So that's all I got for everybody this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this iteration of Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. We appreciate you guys being here. You guys are the reason, again, always the reason why we do this, why Dom and I are here every Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, working hard to not be the smartest guys in the room. So thank you for being a part of the conversation. Thank you to everybody who's here. Thank you to everybody watching. We appreciate all of you. You guys are the reason for this, and we can't wait to see you again next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. right here on Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. We love you guys. Bye-bye.